Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Vesuvius regular open meeting of council, March 22nd, 2022 in council chambers. And I will call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. And first up is the approval of agenda and late items. And we do have one report under community services grants. And so I would like to have a motion, please, that the regular open agenda of March 22nd be approved as amended with the community services grant report added as item number 5 under J staff reports. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. And the adoption of some minutes is next. It would be the regular open minutes of March the 8th be adopted. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Harvey, all in favor. Thank you. And we will now go to water matters. And that would be, am I correct? That's where we're at? Yeah, okay. There's too many water matters in here, so I have to be careful I got the right one. The water metering implementation. No, bylaws. Sorry, we're at bylaws first. Bylaws is the wrong tab here. Okay, so this would be the East Lakeshore Drive sewer and water parcel taxes. Mr. Zacco.
Thank you, Mayor Ricardo. So this is bylaws 1182.08 and 1183.08 for the East Lakeshore Drive sewer and water parcel taxes. And the recommendation for council will be to give first three readings to East Lakeshore Drive sewer system parcel tax amendment bylaw 1182.08 for 2022, and to give first three readings to East Lakeshore Drive water system parcel tax bylaw 1183.08. So East Lakeshore sewer parcel tax bylaw 1182 and East Lakeshore water parcel tax bylaw 1183 were established for a specified area on Lakeshore Drive in 2002. These bylaws were created to establish the method of collection of parcel taxes for sewer and water infrastructure installed in 2003. Collection of the parcel taxes for the specified area began in 2004 and will be fully paid in 2023. These bylaw amendments are being brought forward to council as one property has been added to the specified area, which adjusts the taxable area and also changes the taxable rate that would be applied against the properties included in the specified area. The bylaw amendment reflected the amended taxable acreage and is referenced below. The changes to the parcel tax rates are as follows. So East Lakeshore Drive sewer parcel tax bylaw, the rate per acre has gone from $205.88 down to $193.49. And for the East Lakeshore Drive water parcel tax bylaw, the rate's going from $115.52 down to $108.49. So implications community ensures the amount due for the debt portion of the Southeast Sector sewer and water project are collected from the benefit and property owners. Under budget, making these changes to the bylaws balances the funds collected from the specified area property owners to the balance due to pay for the debt related to this project. Significant dates, bylaw needs to be adopted before May 15, 2022. And at this point in time, I'd ask for council two separate resolutions, one for the first three readings of East Lakeshore Drive sewer system parcel tax amendment bylaw 1182.08 2022. Start.
Thank you. And do water councillors vote on this as well?
I don't believe so, other than the water one.
So the
So the
first
sewer
one,
parcel one would be just strictly
the
council.
sewer parcel, and then they would vote on the water one, the second one? Okay. All right, thank you. Could we have a motion, please? Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King? Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know, Mr. Zacco, if you can answer it, or maybe Ms. McKay could. It mentions one new property come into this project. I'm just wondering which property it was.
So that's the Dollywall property. They had made an agreement prior to coming into town boundaries that they would connect their winery.
Okay.
And they would pay parcel tax a portion of it. So those charges are basically carried over.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that the amendment be read a first, second, and third year time for this sewer system parcel tax. All in favor? Thank you very much. And now we'll go to the second one. All right, that would be that the East Lake Shore Drive Water System Parcel Tax Amendment Bylaw number 1083.08/2022 be read a first, second, and third time. Thank you, Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, and this one could be all 7 of us that could vote on this. All right, all in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Zackel. And now we will go to Mr. Brownstein.
Thank you,
Water
Worship.
metering implementation.
So this was brought to the committee of the whole 2 weeks ago to allow council time to review, to compile any questions, etc. It is now coming to council for actual recommendations and follow through. So again, capital cost of approximately 4.7 million, the implementation of a universal watering metering program for the community. I have brought Steve Underwood from True Consulting down to help with some of the questions that may arise from this discussion this afternoon. There were 2 options provided to council in regards to the implementation of a water metering program. One was to move forward with the recommendations in this plan, and the other one was to actually not move forward. However, there are subjects to that aspect of not moving forward, is that staff would like some further financial obligations from council in regards to other programs that could be used to offset our water demands, such as district metering, leak protection and removal programs, water main and water sewage replacement programs, reviewing our rates, community park irrigation upgrades, zero-scaping community parks, low fixture initiatives within development and new buildings, as well as existing buildings, zero-scaping initiatives that would be town-sponsored throughout the community, expansion of the effluent irrigation system, and stormwater reuse upgrades and projects. These are just some of the potential other avenues in which we can use to curb our water demand. These do have costs associated with them, and they can be quite substantial as well. Again, without going down the path of actually reviewing all these programs, understanding what they may involve. A zero-scaping initiative would be town sponsored, be something along the lines that we would, commit 5 or 6 or even up to $10,000 for a property to go in and remove all their lawn and put in a zero-scaping type landscape. Just trying to get people to move away from having green lawns throughout the summer season. So I'm going to open the floor to any questions, discussion. This is a big one.
Councillor Rhodes, you're first.
Thank you, Member Cordo. So I have 2 questions. This situation, personally, I'm sold on it. I understand the importance of having it, and I can see the benefit. However, it appears that I'm almost alone in that feeling in the community because it's a highly controversial matter that we're trying to deal with. And I think we would be naive to think that it's just going to happen because we want it to happen. There will be lots of pushback and that kind of thing. But I always look at things that are important. And I'm wondering if Mr. Underwood could comment on our average daily demand of 980 liters. That sounds like extraordinarily high to me. If you look at some of the statistics over the world, I mean, there's African countries that use less water, perhaps maybe because they don't have water, but I mean, my point is, it just seems like it's extraordinarily high. I think at one time we were striving at 280 or 260 per day per capita. I mean, I'm shocked about how much it is. And at the end of the discussion, I'd like to know what our next steps are, where we go after this meeting. So that was kind of a twofold.
Could we ask Mr. Underwood to comment on that?
Yeah, I didn't bring stats on, your neighboring communities' water demands, but our goal has always been to take that, it's a maximum day demand is our biggest problem, so, and that includes irrigation. And so when you say it's this many liters per capita per day, it's really how green is everyone's lawn is our biggest problem. And so we do need to create the incentives to curb irrigation, because that's what drives that number up even higher. Part of it is our own irrigation, right? So we're irrigating parks, but generally, communities do keep the parks green on the idea that other people's lawns might not be. And so, yeah, if we could just come down 20% to 700 liters per capita per day, we would be in a much better place from a water supply issue. The other thing that I think Jared didn't touch on that we're not appreciating is that our demand has crossed our current supply capacity. Like we do not have enough water if one of our pumps breaks down right now. So we've crossed that safety margin of having a spare well. So without some immediate action, we do have to bring well 7 online, and that's a $5 million touch. So it's actually, we're really sitting here, do we try and proceed with meters to see if we can bring that per capita demand down on the maximum day so that we have enough water, or do we bring well 7 online? We're really talking about the same dollars, and one of them is more water smart and definitely viewed better by funding agencies and stuff like that, that we're actually doing the right thing, and we'll be able to start reporting that we have seen market improvements in our per capita demand, and can answer grant funding questions much better. Our latest application, when we're filling out the forms, it's getting harder to tick the boxes that they want us to tick when we can't report reductions. We can't report that we're meeting our targets because we haven't set new targets in 10 years, and we're not meeting the ones we set 10 years ago.
We have Councillor Bennett and then Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just when I was going through a lot of this stuff yesterday for quite a while, I was going through all that stuff. I understand that when I look at metering, I'm thinking, okay, it's going to just how much it costs the water in my house is. Then I start going through and I say all this stuff about, well, all that extra water is going through the sewer system, the water system, it's using up the lift stations, the pump stations. So it's a lot bigger than just measuring the water in your house. And right now, I don't think as taxpayers, we understand that. So I think when we're saying here, the media is saying that today we're voting on putting meters in. We're not voting on putting meters in today, we're just voting information of putting in a financial plan. So if the taxpayers vote on later, it's there. Is that correct?
I don't think that's correct.
You're asking for money.
So it's through worship, that's through.
Yeah.
Chair to.
But we still have, the taxpayers still have a vote on whether they want to do it, the bottom line. Is that what you meant? That's what I thought.
So, yeah, to answer Councilman's question, yes, there is still that hurled across with electoral approval in order for this to move forward. Unfortunately, there still is that minute chance that the public may outcry and say, no, there's no way this is going forward. However, we need council's support and endorsement to get it to that point to begin with. And that is what I'm asking for at this meeting, is council's endorsement to move all this stuff forward, to go through to that next step, as Councilor Rose alluded to, which would be the borrowing bylaw and the electoral approval in order to make sure that we can actually borrow up to $6 million to make this project happen.
So during that time, that'll give you the opportunity to let the taxpayers understand more. It's not just like I just thought, okay, it's a meter in my house, they're gonna charge me for water. Then when I went back through here from all the stuff that's been done and all the studies, I think we're probably the last community in the Okanagan that doesn't have it. Then it makes a little more sense to me than just getting charged for water in my house. The meter means a lot more. But now we have the chance to let the electoral people understand better of what you're trying to do.
So there would be an avenue of public engagement as well, as we start to move forward with this.
lots of education, quite right. I mean, if we're looking back and trying to figure it out too, then obviously, the people who are voting on this are gonna have to, you know, feel comfortable voting on whatever it is. So, Director Appleby, did you want, Councillor
I have
Appleby?
a question for the two of you, because you've been in different communities. And it's to do with the whole gamut of this. Is there a way that we can change the view of a lot of the residents or owners by giving them a break if a meter is installed in some sort of plan, an early plan? So if somebody puts up their hand and says, I want a meter installed in my house, can we give them a break on water, you know, for 2 years or something like that? And the person that is holding out will have to pay the running rate plus a penalty. You know, just sort of quietly twisting your arm to be part of the program.
Well, I don't know whether we can or not. It may not be legal. I don't know.
Well, it's how you make the bylaw, saying that if you're metered, you're gonna spend this much money on water. And if you're not metered, you're gonna spend this much money on water.
I think that's what happened with the Northwest Sewer. If they came in at the time that the sewer was put in, there was a certain cost, but anybody who didn't come in at that time had to pay an extra cost later. Am I correct on that? Mr. Sack?
One of our biggest things that we've got is having contractors to be able to install these meters and things of that nature. We're wanting to ensure we've got the right meters on the proper read type of meters, that they're located in the right spot. So if we went to a one-off scenario, I think we'd find ourselves inundated by everybody wanting to do their own, and we'd be creating a lot of extra work.
Well, that was my intent, Jim. My intent was, is if somebody puts up their hand and says, I want to be connected, as they did for the sewer, then fine, they're in the program.
Yeah.
Okay, if they don't want to participate, then maybe they get a leeway for a year or two, or whatever the case may be, until it has to happen. I don't know. It was a thought that went through my mind, is how we could afford to make this happen a little quicker and have a little less opposition towards it. That's all.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while. Director, Councilor Morera, well, calling you all directors today. Councilor Morera, you're first.
Okay, these meters we're trying to get. Yes, we're special meters for the so they can do red and that idea. So what happens to the ones that just put in meters? Rule or?
So all the meters that we've put in the last few twinning projects will be compliant with this system. Several of the meters that we even put in as part of the large water user study will also work. Some of them can be converted to be read by the new or the current meter reading system that we own. Others, though, will have to be replaced. And so we've done an inventory of those, and that's encompassed in this report to try and figure out how many actually have to be replaced, but most of them can be read.
Okay, but I mean, if you replace it. So they're paying twice, so you're gonna be universal.
The universal metering program would pay for a new meter for everyone if they needed it.
Oh, I see. Well, indirectly, the owner, the house owner is gonna pay for it for it.
Yes.
So, yes,
So
every water
I'm
user
saying
is
is
paid
paid twice.
They've been doing
City.
You don't get a refund on your old washing machine after it's been
I
used
do.
for 10 years.
Of course you do. Councilor King.
Yeah, thank you, Edward. I presume if this went forward and up to the public, sort of everybody gets a meter and nobody gets a meter? There's not like half a town gets a meter and the other half doesn't?
Yeah, I think everyone has to get metered. And like I said earlier, we've already crossed the line where we're into the spot where we're running all of our wells, and this summer we'll run them all again. And so if one breaks, we're into an emergency response mode. So we don't really have time to do a phased in option where you could do it over several years. Like we either have to do this or we have to bring well 7 online, and it's going to cost us more to do the latter.
I guess with this projections, if you looked at all the development going forward, and some of this stuff will all come online, but I presume the developers got to pay for this new development.
All the new developers are putting in meters, that's already a rule. But there's lots of new development being proposed, lots. And a lot of it's on vacant land, so that's going to be increasing our water demand.
And well, that's, I guess that goes back to whether we look at a new well, where you look at, you say you produce about 289 right now and about 222. Doesn't give us, and we're over sort of the threshold of kind of matching ourselves, so
Yeah,
be in a safe zone. So
We-
with all this
we-
development,
yeah, we
it
may
looks
not
like
be
the
able
well's
to
gonna be
avoid
built
the well.
anyhow.
Yeah, we may not be able to avoid the new well. But it's going to be an expensive undertaking bringing it on. Delaying it as long as we can would do us better and allow us to plan for it more.
I'll just ask one last question. I've got to answer grant funding. We've missed all the opportunity. Have you heard of any new opportunities?
Through the chair to Councilor King, we've had, I don't know, a couple conversations with the province, that, as I said in the past, that ship has unfortunately sailed. They're not big on water metering funding anymore. That was probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They were pushing to fund those types of programs. Again, with the way grant funding's been going to this point, I mean, we've submitted 3 times now for a water treatment plant. There's nothing. If grant funding is something we want to go after, it could be another 3 or 4 years before we even get looked at for any potential grant funding, even if it exists. That now delays, our abilities to produce more water, then we're going to put a new well in anyways. Then the costs go up, so you get a domino effect.
So I guess in a perfect world, if this we suggested moving this forward, you think if the public change the bylaws, about what time of year would you be implementing, putting new meters in?
We would be hoping for second or third quarter 2023.
Second quarter of 2023. Well, there might be some grants.
Everybody's grant known.
Well, no.
So
Okay,
can I
thank you.
just ask, Steve, you mentioned that, that outdoor and residential watering outside lawns and stuff takes a lot of water. Since we put in the water metering changes to our bylaws a few years back, we have had 3 days a week that you can now water, and it was brought back to 2 days a week at one point because we had scarcity of water. Has that made any difference, do you know, over the last few years of the amount of water that has been used on per person on a daily basis? Do we know that?
Do you have that, Rita?
Off the top of my head, as far as I know, it has not reduced our water demand by any stretch of. The problem is, your worship, if you don't police it, nobody's
I know.
gonna abide by it.
I know.
And unfortunately, we're not going out in the morning and checking
Well,
on people. So
Unfortunately, the town is at fault as well.
Is
So, yes, because some of the areas that have been watered have been overwatered and are on the roads. But I get it. I pass by them all the time in the summertime, people that water on Mondays and nobody should be, that kind of thing. I just wondered. Yeah. Well, today is March 22nd, United Nations World Water Day. So this is an appropriate discussion to have on this day. And I am definitely in favor of dealing with water issues the best way we can. So I am certainly in agreement with this, but it's certainly going to have to go through the steps and then be asked by our, by the public, whether they agree with it. But I do think it's like the fire hall. When we were planning for that, it took a great deal of education and asking and answering questions before people actually felt comfortable voting on it. So I assume the same thing would happen here. Did you have another question, Councillor Appleby?
Are we fooling ourselves that we're not gonna have to bring this other well online this year?
We can't bring it on this year. The earliest we can have it online is probably 2 years from now. That's how long it takes to get this stuff to the goal line in 2022. So we are, the irrigation restrictions that you have, we may have to be bringing them on more severely and policing them to curb water demand for this year and next.
But we haven't voted on expenditure for this well.
No,
Well, that well is in the 5-year plan. So the well is in the 5-year financial plan.
Right.
So it has been accounted for now that are, anyways.
Yeah, so it's.
I just, all I'm saying is it, unless we do something drastic, then what had happened last year is gonna be the same this year. And we were already in trouble last year, so this year's not going to be any better unless we make a change. The only immediate change it seems we can make is bring more water online in some fashion.
One of the biggest issues is water conservation strategies. Is what can we do to try to curb the usage at this present time? And it is either invoking what further water restrictions earlier rather than later, is actually having our staff or bylaw go out and police this or enforce this is a better word for it. Those are the things that we'll have to take to heart moving forward, especially when we do talk about the water supply as being an issue. Yes, the project, the well is on in our 5-year financial plan. It was further down in our radar, but like Steve said, by the time you're ready to actually get it starting with construction and developed and up and running, there's all kinds of other red tape that's got to take place, I would assume, with respect to getting these type of systems in place. So even if we said yes to move forward with it today, we know that end goal is 2 years away. So financially it's showing on our radar to be spent in this year. We're having to do a bunch of work before, but the water conservation is probably one of our most important aspects. Yes, water metering is supposed to be a viable solution for doing that. It's not only conservation, but it deals with all kinds of other types of leak detection and other improvements that we can do. But we almost have to be doing both of them hand in hand, especially when we're talking about water supply issues.
I agree. Go ahead, Councilor Rhodes.
Thanks, Member Cora. Just to echo Mr. Zacco's comments, our water conservation plan that we did, and I stand corrected, I believe, the #1 solution was water metering, so it's right at the top of the list. And once again, I think it would be naive of us to try to predict future problems. That's your job, but we need to deal with this situation because I think that, and I'm just going by memory, I think if water metering started tomorrow, that we would reduce that daily per capita amount well below the threshold, which would give us the time that you need that's necessary to look at the next $7 million expense that we have for water. And that's why I'm so motivated to move forward with this, because we've known about this for years and years. I mean, other communities have clearly demonstrated the benefit of, the leak detection thing would knock 75 liters a day off of our water consumption. And I'm pulling figures out of my head, which, sometimes is mixed up, but I think I'm a little, close to demonstrating what my point is with it, is that we need to move forward with it because there's danger of turning your tap on and no water coming out. I mean, it's not complicated. And individuals in our community are very suspicious of people like us that do this because they think it's a tax grab, first and foremost. And all we want to do is just get more money from them so we can spend it recklessly on other projects in our community. But that's not the way it is with this particular situation. And that's why I want to move forward with it. And that's what my motivation for this is. It's sooner the better.
So are you making a motion? Councillor Rhodes, that we need somebody to move that the water metering implementation plan be endorsed by council. Is that,
I'd be
sounds
happy to
like
do
what
that,
you were
yes.
doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor King. Is there any other discussion on this particular issue? So, and does everybody vote on this, just the 5 or 7?
So
7? All right, so this is just in town though, isn't it? It doesn't include
we're doing, this is for
This is
everywhere.
for
This is
everywhere.
for everywhere.
Okay, all right, good. So all in favor of the motion? Thank you very much. That was unanimous. All right, so the next. So he came down here, all the way down here for nothing? Is that what you mean? No,
Oh,
I'm
no,
kidding.
he's coming
I'm
back.
kidding.
It's
The
never
next-
done.
I'm here for 3 days, so don't worry about me.
The next motion that we need, and the next issue that we need to deal with is that the necessary steps be taken to ensure financial capacity to start the implementation of a universal water metering program in 2023 through the borrowing of $4,704,000 in capital funds. So that's the next section that we need to do. Go ahead, Mr. Zackel.
So between Jared and I will be working on a financial plan amendment. There's a number of projects that were discussed with council over the last month and a half since our financial plan was adopted. So we'll be bringing forward a financial plan amendment for council to review. So
Okay, would somebody like to move this off this motion?
Move it.
Councillor Harvey is moving it. Through a seconder. Councillor Rhodes is seconding that. I know it seems like a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Yes,
Not spent yet.
no, it's not. It's not. It's just to get the thing rolling for sure.
You can double it.
Well, all right, so we need to vote on this. It's been moved and seconded, all in favor. Thank you. And the next motion that is needed is that the 2023 5-year financial plan include the necessary operational increase to reflect the introductions of a water metering program of $50,000 per year starting in 2024. That's the next thing that was needed. Councillor Bennett is moving that. Is there a seconder? Councillor Rhodes. Any other questions about that one? All right, all in favor. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. Next, we will go on to more water matters. So this is the Water District's 8 and 9 financial accounts, that the Water District information be received, and the Water District cash requirements to March 22nd, 2022 are in the amount of $11,809.97.
So moved.
Thank you. Councillor Appleby is then Councillor Morera seconding that. All in favor? Thank you very much. The next, more water things. This is the Okanagan Basin Water Board meeting from March the 3rd, 2022. You know that I think it was explained the last time that the Okanagan Nation Alliance is one member that sits on the OBWB's board, and they now have equal voting powers to the rest of the board. The budget, the BC budget included $30 million to renew the Healthy Watersheds Initiative. And this will help fund the OBWB Source Water Protection Toolkit, which will be available for all municipalities to help them. And the OBWB has sent another letter to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, calling for stronger invasive mussel action. We seem to do it quite often. And the last thing on here is that while it's Water Day, Universal Water Day today, last Wednesday, March 16th, there was a very good program sponsored by the OBWB, and it was hosting a screening of CBC's Come Hell, BC Underwater. And it was the 5th the state did it, and it was excellent. It was done right after the floods in November, mostly down in the Fraser Valley, but they also mentioned Merritt and Princeton. So I attended that, and it was very well done. So if anybody hasn't seen it, CBC has it on the 5th the state, so it's well worth it. Okay, so yes, sure, go ahead.
Last week, somebody asked me a question, and that's part of the Okanagan Basin Water Board. About how it's getting choked off the weeds and stuff. Is that something they would go to the Okanagan Basin Water Board regarding?
They have many times. The problem is they're looking at trying to put a weed harvester in that lake to pick up the weeds. Partly it's because there's no motors allowed on that lake, and partly it's because there's no place to get in and out. So Okanagan Basin Water Board is actually dealing with the province and on this issue. So yeah, it's there. I was at a really interesting talk last week. A lady who works for BC Lake Stewardship Council and Society, and she says that lakes have a shelf life, and that I think she thought a Suez Lake was 7,000 years. And what happens is that eventually with the silt and growth of weeds and that type of thing, the bottom fills up and it becomes less and less deep in areas. And of course, she also explained, which I thought was fascinating, how the lake turns over every twice a year. And it's because the bottom of the lake, see, I was really fascinated by this. The bottom of the lake is 4 degrees, the top is 0 and there's ice on it. And when the top warms up, it tends to sink to the bottom and it shifts. Anyway, I found it fascinating, but I did think it was quite interesting. She was talking about, I think, Kamloops Lake. Is there Kamloops Lake, or was she talking? Okay. And it has the same problems, and it had a shelf life of, I'm not sure, but anyway, eventually the lake fills in and you end up with sort of a stream or river going down the middle instead of a lake. Now, it probably won't happen in our lifetime. However, I thought it was most interesting, and this lady, her name was Marge Sidney. She has worked for the Department of Environment for many, many years, and she was quite fascinating. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. Anyway, that's your lesson for today on Water Day. So we need to have a motion to have the OBWB report received and filed. Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. And then we are on to the merge request, Suez Lake Water Quality Society. Mr. Davis, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The recommendation before council is for council to approve a commercial slip to be used by the Suez Lake Water Quality Society for the purpose of mooring their boats to monitor the health of the lake. The Suez Water Quality Society made a presentation to council at the Committee of the Whole on March 8th. The society outlined the importance of their mandate and the quality work that they do to help protect the lake. They also presented a few options, most of which were very, very challenging and not feasible, such as launch when needed, attached to a buoy, or a private lakefront. Council requested a staff report to address the option of securing a slip at the Desert Sunrise Marina. The marina has been operational since 2013, and during that time there has been a wait list. There are currently 31 people waiting for a slip, and some of these people have been waiting since the marina opened. We normally have a couple of available slips each year, and other years we don't have any. Currently, there is one slip available, which is usually offered to the next person on the wait list. In total, there are 32 slips, 16 owned by the town, 16 owned and managed by Watermark. The slips that are managed by the town have 4 dedicated commercial slips and 12 non-commercial slips. Each slip holder is required to sign an agreement, and if they're in good standing with the town, they have the first right of refusal to renew annually. There are 2 commercial slips that are currently available and will be offered to Osoyoos Marine for this year. The other 2 commercial slips are part of the Marina Office and Parking Stall Agreement with SunWest Development Corporation. One of the commercial slips could accommodate the moorage of the Osoyoos Lake Water Quality Society boat. However, Osoyoos Marine has informed the town that they are interested in keeping the slips for this year. So for options, for council, to designate a commercial slip to the Osoyoos Lake Water Quality Society for the purpose of mooring the boat. Number 2, for council to designate a non-commercial slip to the Osoyoos Lake Water Quality Society for purpose of mooring the boat. Option 3, for council to designate another slip such as the RCM Keys to Osoyoos Lake Water Quality Society. And option number 4, for council not to make any changes and remain status quo. In terms of implications for the community, the water quality of the lake is important for all users, including locals and tourists. However, providing a slip ahead of the people on the wait list does not seem to be favorable. The RCMP slip is in place with the rescue plan, and if this is changed, they would have to update this plan. This could have a negative effect on the community in case of an emergency. Organizational, the process of allocating the slips. Budget, financial risk implications. If council designates a slip to the Water Quality Society, a fee is assigned for its use. Commercial slips are $2,000 a season, and non-commercial slips are $1,500 a season. Significant dates: the marina is operational from April 1st until October 31st, and sustainability. The society provides an ongoing synopsis of the health of the lake, and providing assist will assist in keeping or identifying issues that need attention. And this has been respectfully submitted by myself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. Can I just ask, I know that we have 16 slips, you've outlined that. Watermark also has 16. I'm just wondering if that is an option for the water quality boat. Do we know whether that's been looked at or not?
I think they have talked to Watermark, and I don't think there was anything available through them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Councillor Bennett, what would you? Oh, all right, you're next.
I would move that we go with number 2, that we designate a non-commercial slip to the Osoyoos Lake Water Quality Society, because it's very important work, and that will waive the fee.
And there is one available. Is that why you suggested that? Okay. Is there, so that's your motion?
Yes.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Rhodes. Okay, now I'm going to let Councillor Harvey speak, unless you wanted to speak to either one of you for first to the motion. No. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, a question, I guess. I mean, the recommendation was to provide a commercial slip, which is what I would favor. But it's not clear to me if the recommendation is a commercial slip that's otherwise allocated to Osoyoos Marine or to the SunWest Development Corporation.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
to Councilor Harvey, right now the SunWest actually has 2 slips, 2 commercial slips. And if Osoyoos Marine pays for the slips for this year, which they said they want to, they will get the 2. If the 2 that are available, one commercial goes to the Water Quality Society, there will only be 1 slip available for Osoyoos Marine this year.
Okay, that was kind of my concern too. Can you explain why Osoyoos Marine gets a commercial slip? And I understand they managed the marina for quite some time, and that's why they had the 2 slips, I'm assuming.
That's correct.
They do not manage it anymore.
No.
No. So how is it that that they continue, is this just something that they've had in the past and it continues on, or?
Yeah, Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
originally, before we took over the marina, the 4 commercial slips could have been used by 4 different businesses. And that's not very good way to do business, and I'll give you an example why. Last year, we had 2 commercial slips to 2 different businesses, the Soyuz Marine
Yes.
and whoever's running it right now. And
Yes.
what happens is, in light of, say, the Soyuz Marine, renting out boats and doing their business, and if for some reason they're not there, the other business on site deals with them, and sometimes that's been a problem.
Okay.
In good standing still, there's no issues in terms of that, but that has been an issue.
Mhm.
And if I can just reiterate that, we have 4 commercial slips, because it seemed like there's a few people that didn't understand what I was trying to say. Those 2 commercial slips with, Sun West are part of that contract
Yes,
that we signed for another 2 years. So there's 2 slips, the other 2 slips, which are commercial slips, would go to the Soyuz Marine this year. So there's 4 in total.
but.
I just want to make sure everybody knows
Yeah,
that.
but we're suggesting that if there is a possibility of providing 1 slip to Soyuz Marine and 1
That
slip
is
to the
correct.
water quality.
Yes,
Is
yes,
that what you were thinking, Councillor Harvey?
Yes, that's
That was
correct.
the question.
yeah. Because there is only 2 available. It's not 4 available. We have
Right,
4 in total, but
right.
2 are already as part of the contract.
Yes, and I knew that.
Okay.
So, the motion on the floor, though, is to provide a non-commercial slip to the Water Quality Society.
And I have no problem changing that. Either commercial or non-commercial.
Just defeat it and make it a motion.
Should we vote on it and defeat it, or,
You can just do a friendly amendment, not an agreement.
oh, is that all right? So they both do a friendly amendment, and are you changing it to option 1? Okay, so it's now been moved and seconded. Yeah, hang on, so that we go with option 1, providing 1 commercial slip. Go ahead, Councillor King.
Yeah, I guess we give them the slip, but it comes to the cost, or do we waive the cost also?
Madam Mayor, to the Councilor King, I think that was part of
Yes.
the original motion.
So I'll read the motion as amended.
Yes.
So that council approve a commercial slip to be used by the Osoyoos Lake Water Quality Society for the purpose of mooring their boat to monitor the health of the lake and to waive the fee.
Okay, that's not what it said.
Yeah,
That's it. No, that's what was what Councillor Bennett and Councillor Rhodes did originally with the non-commercial, and
To
then
waive
they
the
went,
fee.
yeah.
have we asked the water quality people if they're willing to pay the fee, because they might be?
No, we haven't. Madam
Okay,
50%.
well, even if it was at a reduced rate, I don't know. So at the moment, the motion doesn't say that. Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
Just to offer up a little bit of debate, we need to remember that all of the participants are volunteers. They don't receive any kind of pay or, a lot of times they don't get any gratitude from anybody for the important service that they do there. I'm very comfortable with waiving the fee limits.
Is that for you as well? With that? Okay. So the motion as it stands then is what we're voting on with the fee
Okay.
waive. So I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's, they'll be tickled pink.
No cost.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, you better watch the next one. All right. Mr. Brownstein, you're on again. He did polish his shoes. I just want you to know that, although he didn't wear a tie. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
Worship. Yes, I didn't know our time.
Fleet replacement.
At the last meeting, the Operational Service Department presented council with the fleet assessment and replacement strategy. At that meeting, council asked for further details in regards to particular units to be replaced in 2022. With that, I have provided greater detail with each one of the units that will be replaced in 2022. So unit 12, which is currently a 2-ton cab over, will be replaced with similar IG and F550. This unit provides garbage collection services as well as material debris hauling. It is a supplemental unit to our 2007 F550, which is unit 19 during the winter, due to the fact that the unit 19 is used for snow and ice control. Unit 17 is a 2006 International flatbed with a knuckle boom crane. And again, will be replaced with a similar piece of equipment. The cabin chassis was purchased in 2006, but the crane is circa 1993. We are having issues trying to, again, source parts and materials for that crane, due to the fact that it's from 1993. And the manufacturer no longer supports that unit. The frame and chassis of the actual truck is showing significant rot and delamination of the frame, as well as the fuel tanks are starting to fail. So there'll be some significant costs associated with that truck to keep it on the road. Unit 23 is a 95 International 5-ton. Again, one of our major snow and ice control pieces of equipment is used every winter. But again, due to its age, we're having difficulty sourcing parts and materials to keep it on the road. And with the recent end of the snow and ice control season, we pulled the center apart and she fell apart on us. So she's going to be welded back together and put back in service for next year. Unit 25 is a 1997 Dodge 3/4 ton. This is currently being used by our parts maintenance specialist. It will be replaced with a larger vehicle, and it'll be outfitted with some storage cabinets, water tank, and potentially a dump box or flatbed, depending on the operator's preferences. Unit number 39 is a 2007 F-150 and it's used for general maintenance activities. We'll be looking to replace this with a hybrid, whether it be an SUV or a 1/4 ton pickup. One thing I just want to make note, again, due to the current supply chain issues and electronic chip shortages and other sorts of materials, we will be looking to move forward with an RFP process this year. We may not see these vehicles till late 2023 or early 2024. And again, this now comes into play for 2023 fleet replacements. We might not see those till 2024, 2025.
So in fact, what you were asking for is $896,000 for this year, but we may not have to pay for those for another year or two. So how does that work? We pay for them in the year that we get them, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
We actually pay for them. We had the budget for it in the year which I purchased.
Yes. Counselor Bennett.
Yes, Jared, is it possible to do a budget 2022 for units 12 and 17 and 2023 for unit 23 and 2024 for 25 and 39? And quarterly, I spread the budget over.
So getting back to the fleet replacement and replacement strategy. If we start deferring vehicles out, now you're gonna end up compounding the problem further down the road. What we're trying to do now is play catch up with our fleet. We've let things go too long without being replaced. The fleet assessment, alluded to the fact that this town should be now contributing at least $400,000 a year every year for the next 30 years. The fleet replacement, no matter whether I replace a piece of equipment or not. So that at the end of that 20-year cycle, we're not diving further into debt to then fund what we already own. So getting to your question, whether or not I can defer vehicles to the following year, to the following year, it's not going to solve the financial pickle we're in.
Aren't by getting all these the same year, 8 years down the road, you're doing the same thing. You got 4 huge replacements.
So that's why next year I believe only got $180,000 of the fleet replacement, but we actually budget $400,000. So that way that 330 gets put away in a reserve, so that when I get to year 10 to replace all these vehicles, the money's already sitting in the pot, waiting to go, and there's no debt servicing, there's no financial impact to the community at that point.
Go ahead, Councillor
Can
King.
I just ask Mr. Zacco, with this moving forward, putting in the budget, are we having to borrow money to purchase these vehicles?
For these 5 items, no, we're utilizing water, sewer, and general reserves to pay for these.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that we tried to do, and that came out of the plan, was trying to limit the amount that's being borrowed to pay for these, to spread out those costs. They were wanting us to try to get, like Jared said, ahead of the curve. So we're able to start eventually putting monies into reserves to buy our future trucks. So in essence, we're ultimately doing that in some respects by using reserves to pay for these ones now.
Go ahead.
Back there, Mr. Burstein, from Steve. I support the staff definitely needs new equipment to get the job done, and I think you've done some great research and give us the information we requested last time. Kind of more input on what type of trucks and what they're capable of doing. I guess my only one kind of question is, you're kind of guessing whether you'll get 2 this year, 2 next year, or 2 the after, or you're pretty solid that we more get 2 and 2, 23, and the other 3 and 4, or vice versa?
Yeah, unfortunately, with the supply chains the way they are, I can't predict on when these pieces of equipment will be available. Ford just closed orders last month for 2022.
I don't see us getting them this year, but all of a sudden you can get all 5 next year.
You could? Yep.
You would hope.
I would hope that actually the way it unfolds.
So you, at this point, you don't see any of these being in the yard this year? No. Okay, Councillor Rhodes.
I want to ask the less than serious question. On your list here, you have with we would shop around, right? We're not stuck with brand loyalty and
So through the chair to Councilor Rhodes, no, an RFP would be released for all these pieces of equipment, so we can go out for best value, et cetera, to make sure that we're getting the right vehicle for the right cost.
so that competition like. That's not good.
Hopefully,
Or vice versa.
and unfortunately, part of this market, we don't, I have no idea, and what I would do is probably end up trying to stay in budget, so we'd end up having to change how those pieces of equipment were spec.
Yeah, or RFP process would include all of the units or.
Yes, so what we do is probably release an RFP for the smaller vehicles, and then release an RFP for the large vehicles to these two different suppliers that work in those worlds. So it would be your local sales or car dealerships for some of the equipment, and then the stuff is more commercial, right? It's the international and those types of bigger vehicles.
Thank you.
So is somebody planning to make a motion on this? No, we haven't made a motion yet, no?
I'll make a motion, we move forward with the purchase of these 5 vehicles.
Okay, so seconder for that? I'll second it. Oh, Councillor Harvey beat me to it, okay? So it's been moved and seconded that we go ahead with the following equipment replacements for 2022, even though we might not get them or pay for it. So there's 5 of them there. I'll go ahead.
Just wonder if I could hear the motion back again, please.
Yes. For the following equipment be replaced in 2022. Unit 12, 2006 Ford LCF 55 with light, 153,750. Unit 17, 2006 International Flatbed with mobile knuckle boom with light, 235,750. Unit 23, 1995 International 5-ton dump truck with light, $307,500. Unit 25, 1997 Dodge 3/4 ton pickup, landscape maintenance unit with water tank, 153,750. Unit 39, 2007 Ford half-ton pickup, hybrid SUV or light truck, 46,125. You're welcome.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that we go with that motion. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's passed. Don't push your luck, Mr. Baxter.
That's it for today.
Okay, we're going to move on to the RMI Visitor Activity Enhancement Fund, the SOS Pride Society. Mr. Saunders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, report for council this afternoon, to provide an update of the seek council guidance on an application that was submitted in late 2021 by the Okanagan Single Pride Society for funds available through the Visitor Activity Enhancement Program funded through the RMI program. So at the November 16th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting, representatives from each respective society that we received applications from for the 2022 intake presented to council. And 4 groups were successful in receiving funding. And one group that council expressing concern over their presentation and their proposed event was the Southern Okanagan Pride Society's proposed Pride Parade at the time. So pursuant to council's guidance, the Pride Society was requested to submit a revised application that includes the scope of their original event, and that sort of circled around the idea of a parade and all the logistic challenges that would entail doing a parade on Highway 97. Therefore, the society was advised to prepare a revised application for consideration at a later date, and here we are today. Staff received a revised application from the Pride Society, and it is attached to the report. But essentially, it switches the focus from a parade-based event to sort of an arts festival society event, kind of similar to some of the other applications that we received, and it would be centered around Gyro Park. So staff have reviewed the Pride Society's revised application, and the date of the proposed event is Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Staff can advise council that the scope of the event and its financial implications are within the 2022 RMI Visitor Activity Enhancement Program guidelines. With that said, I would be happy to answer any questions. The recommendation before council is that council support the South Okanagan Pride Society's revised 2022 RMI Visitor Activity Enhancement Fund application as attached to my report today. And that council directs staff to disperse RMI Visitor Activity Enhancement funds in the amount of $5,000 in support of the application.
Thank you very much. My assumption is the $5,000 won't be 10% is kept back. Am I correct?
That's correct, Your
Yeah.
Worship. Yes, pursuant to the guidelines to
Sure.
the Visitor Activity Enhancement Program, 10% is held back.
Right. Until
the final report is received.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm glad that that they took out the parade part of it. That would have been very confusing and pretty hard to manage. So, council, what do you think on this? Yes, Councillor King.
Yeah, I'll move a motion that I'll reach here that we move forward with this application.
The first motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The council support the South Okanagan Milkmean Pride Society's revised 2022 RMI Visitor Activity Enhancement Fund application as attached to the Executive Assistant's report dated March 22nd. That's what. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Rhodes seconded that. Any questions about this? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. And we need a second motion that council direct staff to disperse the RMI Visitor Activity Enhancement Funds in the amount of $5,000 in support of the application. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you very much. Okay. Next is the, thank you, Mr. Saunders, for doing that. Next is the general net payroll, Sun Bowler Arena financial accounts. So that the general cash requirements as of March the 22nd, 2022 are in the amount of $800,402.09. Sungold cash requirements of $10,721.23. And net payroll accounts of $100,171.83. So council is, we have two options that we receive those as referenced above for information purposes, or that we request more information from staff. Option one.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Councilor Bennett, you're seconding that? Good. All in favor? Thank you very much. And now we're on to the extra thing that we had in here, and that is Mr. Davis, Community Services Grants.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the committee of the whole meeting this morning, council had a discussion in terms of the recommendations for the award for the community service grant program. As part of the report, there were a couple of additions, which I'll talk about here. The Osceola Lake Water Quality Society completed a grant application on January 17th for increasing education activities and awareness and to increase testing opportunities. Council also inquired about the Festival Society grant request. Originally, they applied for $4,500 and was being recommended for $3,000 by the community. Prior to the deadline, the society sent in another budget update requesting $7,500. This is to cover prizes, advertising, and awards for the events that they organize. In 2019, the society received a grant of $7,000. They didn't receive any grant in 2020, and in 2021, they received $3,000. The U15 Soma minor hockey team also applied for a grant of $500 as part of their trip to Lillooet, which is included in this for discussion. So the recommendation is for council to review each recommended application separately and approve as separate motions.
Okay. So we can start with, I've got the list right here, so we could start with the first one, which is the bursaries. The council approved the Osceola Secondary School bursaries in the amount of $4,500. I thought we'd already done that one.
That one's already been done.
Okay,
We
so
did
that
it for 3 years at a time, I think.
That's
didn't
correct,
we?
yes.
Okay, so that one's been done. And the next one then is that council approved the Fireworks Canada Day event in the amount of $8,000. Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor? Thank you. And the next one is that council approved Desert Sun Counseling for the community kitchen in the amount of $5,000. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. Next one, that council approved the Artists on Main insurance startup in the amount of $1,000. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. Next one, that council approved the Osceola Festival Society events insurance in the amount of $7,500. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Director Davis, we had some discussion about the insurance. Is that included in this amount or not? Just get a little clarity on that.
Council, no, it's not included. So the insurance that's listed on the budget is separate as a line item expense, and it's $1,000. I think we have more than 1,000 in our insurance, yeah, but 1,000 is allocated to the Festival Society separately than this. Yeah.
So the total would be 500.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we all right with that?
That's a question.
Yes.
So would it be better to take that insurance kind of off that motion? Because it's for everything else, not the insurance, because the insurance comes out of a different budget we've already allocated.
But that's for parade insurance, the one that's paid for by the town, and this could be something else, but I don't know. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Zacco.
The application didn't reference insurance costs whatsoever.
Yeah.
Before I understood that the application actually included insurance costs within their application, but it does not. So in hindsight, I would say the $7,500 request strictly relates to the events going on.
Yeah, so insurance.
So could we take the word
The word
insurance out of
insurance
there?
shouldn't be on there.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Did somebody, we haven't voted on that yet.
Okay, we've got motion,
We have a motion
yeah,
made by,
I have,
Counselor.
Counselor Rhodes, Counselor Bennett.
all right, would you be agreeable to changing your motion to with taking out the word insurance and just having events?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Take
All right.
insurance out.
Okay,
We'll take that out.
Yeah.
Now it just says events.
Yeah.
In the amount of $7,500.
right,
All, sorry, go ahead. I've got a
Sorry,
question now. Yeah, no problem.
I'm curious about the second application that we got. Did it fit the criteria of the program?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It came in within the deadline.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Thanks.
So we now have to vote on this, okay? All in favor of the motion for a festival society? Thank you very much. Any opposed? No, okay. Next is the council approved the Serious Elk Senior Citizens municipal portion of taxes in the amount of $2,200. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor King. Yes, go
Can I
ahead.
just make a quick comment
Sure.
and maybe Jim can help on this? We don't know what the actual municipal portion of that tax is, so I'm not sure how we should word that.
I would just say that the grant is for the municipal portion of taxes without any dollar value.
Okay,
attached to it.
is that all right then? We can cross off in the amount of 2,200?
we need to do, is Counselor Rhodes and Counselor King okay to do that amendment? Okay.
Okay.
Take out the 2,200.
So it's been moved and seconded that we, Councillor Rhodes, go ahead.
My apologies again. When we forgive or make this part of the program for municipal tax portions, we all know that 100% of all taxes collected go to the province anyway. Are we actually doing that, or are we actually paying for that?
The municipal portion of taxes would normally have come to the town of Suits. So by waiving them, we're basically charging them the taxes, the municipal portion, and then we're giving them a grant. So we're netting out that revenue that we have. But as far as the school, the RUS, the hospital, the library, all of that, we still collect the taxes from them. We still remit those taxes to the taxing authorities. It's just, we're only talking about our municipal portion of taxes only. And we're also not talking about our fire protection or our RCP. We're done.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Gerald, if we take that 2,200 out of there, then the bottom of the tolls are gonna come down by 2,200.
No,
No,
no, we will still be spending approximately that amount, but we don't know that exact amount until the tax rate bylaw is done, the assessment or revised assessment roll is done. So council's just basically authorizing that the municipal portion of taxes will be waived. That $2,200 is just an estimated amount.
Okay.
For now.
just so it doesn't give us a false statement.
Yeah, we can guess that it'll cost us approximately that.
Okay, now we need to vote on it. All in favor of the motion? Thank you very much. Next is that the council approved the Desert Pickleball Club for shade sales in the amount of $3,000. Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. Then that council approved the Lake Kasuya Sailing Club for defib, and training and accessible path in the amount of $2,600. There's somebody going to,
Yeah, I have a question.
yes,
Yeah, I support this motion. I just want to make sure Counselor up there is not in a conflict on this.
Oh, yeah, I'll abstain from the vote. I do have a comment, though.
Thank you.
right, so it's been moved and seconded by Councillor Rhodes. Now, did you have your hand up then, Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, just clarification. I'm not advocating one thing or another, but in this morning's report, it said that the $5,200 ask was not approved, rather $2,600 for the AED, and that the society approached the accessibility committee for the accessibility issues. And so this amount of money from that report suggests to me that this amount of money is not for the accessible path. It's only for the AED or the defib and training. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Now we need to take it.
So,
But please go forward to the accessibility committee for some other amount you want.
okay, so it has been moved and seconded.
Yeah, by King and Rhodes, but we're making, we're taking out the accessible path. And is that okay by Councillor King and Councillor Rhodes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I didn't want to convolute this anymore. but
Go ahead.
The way it was just put in there, the project that was asked for, that's what's listed. And maybe what we should have done for the 2,600 is just say in that last column that it was for the defibrillator and trainer.
And the trainer.
That's all.
Okay, in the amount of 26, not the accessible one. Okay, fair enough. So we're now going to call the question on that one. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Hilson.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that it's on the record that Councillor Harvey is recusing himself from the vote. Okay, just confirming. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we will call the question now. All in favor? Thank you very much. And next is that the council approve the Osoyoos Elks Lodge for exterior doors in the amount of $4,000. Anybody that's going to move this one? Councillor Bennett, Councillor Rhodes. Any questions about it? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess the question kind of arose out of this morning's meeting where we seem to have given 5,000 the previous year from exterior doors. Could you just explain which doors these are compared to the previous year?
I think the ones last year were actually accessible doors, so they actually got grant funding to put handicap doors in, and these were just excellent doors on the side as opposed to the front. One of the,
We were actually told they're the front doors.
It's the very front
Yeah.
doors that they want this for.
Yeah.
The accessible ones, I think, were to
Right,
get into
side.
bingo
Yeah,
down the
that's right.
ramp. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and we had that discussion.
Yeah, it's downstairs, not inside.
Yeah.
There's 3 sets of doors.
So we're okay with this one, the exterior doors at the front, because they have them taped up at the moment, so, or maybe they don't.
They've already been installed.
Okay,
I struggle.
they've already been installed, so, okay, so they've spent the money before they got it. I will call the question then, all in favor. Thank you. And that council, next one, that council approved the Osoyoos Child Care Center for exterior building renovations in the amount of $5,000. Okay, Councillor King, Councillor Bennett. All in favor? Thank you. Next, that council approved the Osoyoos Curling Club for an alarm system in the amount of $1,900. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. That council approved the Rotary Club of Osoyoos for the rental skate program in the amount of $1,000. We have 2 Rotary members here. Can they not vote?
As long as they're not on the executive, or if they have a family member.
Neither one of us are members.
You're not members of Rotary?
No, the
You-
wives are.
Oh, the wives are.
We're friends of the Rotary.
We do all the work.
We're friends, but we're not officially members.
So is that legal then, Mrs. Hilson, that they can
Well, we're
vote
definitely not
because they're not
executive.
members, their wives are?
It would depend what their wives, positions of their wives.
They're not executive.
Neither one are on the executive? Okay, we're all right then. So, so we had it moved in seconds?
No.
Oh, yeah, all right, so we need it moved and seconded, please. About this one, Counselor Rhodes, Counselor Harvey. All right,
Question.
yes, go ahead.
I'd really like to know what their wives think of this, and them doing all the work.
You can shut up now.
Sorry, that was totally inappropriate.
This is an open meeting, so I'm sure their wives could listen to this and comment. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think it's for the public to understand, this will be so the public will be able to rent some skates at the ice rink, where Rotary Sidebar helps support the free skating, but this will actually, there'd be a rack there for people to actually on the honor system, use some skates and then put them back, and then kind of a partnership with the town will kind of look after them or lock them up at night.
Okay. All right, so we'll now vote on this. All in favor? Thank you. Next, the council approved the Mental Wellness Center for Youth Program in the amount of $500. Counselor Rhodes, Counselor King, all in favor? Thank you. That council approved the Royal Canadian Legion for murals and lights in the amount of $4,500.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move it, but I guess I have a comment also. Again, this mural has already been painted. I'm sure it was kind of timeline with the painter having the time to do it. But it does look gorgeous in that respect, so I'll move this forward.
Thank you. Is there someone would like to second that? Go ahead, Counselor Rhodes.
Second that,
Yes, you're seconding it.
yes.
Is there any other comments about it? I was down there the other day and the tattoo artist, and I've forgotten his name, which was like, it's not Maxim, but it's something like that. He was doing purple poppies on one side with dog prints in the middle. So it was for the dogs. There's also a sign at the top over the stairwell that it wasn't finished when I was there that says the town of Vesuvius. I think it was similar to the one that's in, you know, the park over by the bridge. And he certainly is quite fascinating to watch him work because he seems to just sort of spray can, knows the shading and everything. It's really quite amazing. I was watching it for quite a while. Okay, so we have this moved and seconded, and we need to vote on this. All in favor of the Legion? Okay, thank you. Next, the council approved the Desert Park Exhibition Society for an open house event in the amount of $2,000. Go ahead, Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes. Questions, concerns? Do we know when this is, this open house? Has that been decided yet?
September.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Thank you. That council approved the Serious Lake Water Quality Society for Education, Awareness and Training in the amount of $1,000. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor? Thank you. And that council approved the sports team individuals for travel in the amount of $2,000. Yes, go ahead.
This is actually for two separate sports teams that are claiming. It's the Soma U13 and the U15 for $500 each.
So we're just gonna do those ones first today?
That's all.
Okay.
That's all you're approving.
Okay, we're just approving both of those. Yes, the under 13 reps and the under 15 reps. Okay. Are you making that motion? Thank you.
Any
Councillor,
two separate ones or just together?
Just
I
one.
think just one for the two of them. Councillor King is seconding that. All in favor? Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a request of staff to review the criteria for this program. Even though we went through the list and everything, and I'm kind of echoing Councilor King's concerns about projects that have already been completed. And I know most grant programs that are available at any level, including these ones, you can have shovel ready programs and all that kind of thing, but I just have a little bit of an issue with projects that are done. And I know it's, it's small amounts of money and how important it is to these organizations. I get all of that. But I would like to see it given to projects from anybody that applies for it that are not completed already, because I don't know whether the optics are bothering me or what it is. I feel more comfortable because, what if something goes wrong in that process and they were actually expecting that to help subsidize a job that was already done, and we don't step up to the plate, the hardship could be, transferred back to that organization again. So I can't remember if it's in the criteria or not, but I think that it should be reviewed and perhaps put in there for the future.
It's not.
As part of the committee with Councillor Bennett and Mr. Davis, we did discuss that at our review of these grants. And Mr. Davis was going to look at the application and possibly tweak it to cover what you just brought up.
I wasn't aware of that, but thanks, that's exactly. what I would
So
like
for
to see
next
now.
year, you will have a
Yeah.
look at this. Go
Yes.
ahead, Mr. Davis.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. Go ahead.
yeah,
We'll let
sorry, Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Davis speak and then you.
All I was gonna say is that, we didn't know that any of that was happening. I didn't know any of that was happening until last Friday or whatever the case is, right? And council still has a choice if they want to, they, really don't have to approve those for that reason. But again, it would be difficult to go back to say, that it's not approved because it's really not in, the actual policy. So it is something that we should definitely
Look at for sure for next year. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, I think in this case, both those things happened the last week. We just happened to be at Rotary and they were gonna put the doors in that day. And we were having a meeting that afternoon. And the same thing with painting, they both applied for it before and just happened to do the same week that we had the meeting, just before the meeting. So it's kind of, they're not really doing it like a month ahead of time. So I understand you putting that in there. I think in both those cases, they're right the same date. Wow, it's kind of.
I was over at the Elks Hall, helping with bingo, when they said that they had put in an ask for this because it was necessary. And so I sort of understood that they had asked for this and it wasn't, they did it about 2 months ago, I think, put in the request. It's just that we didn't happen to deal with this and come forward with it until now. So I think you're right that it kind of overlapped. Go ahead, Mr. Zackel.
Changing the policy is a real good direction, because one of the biggest things that we see here is this grant and aid isn't to support to just give out money to the community and organizations. They were supposed to demonstrate a financial need for this money. So them having the ability to go and do these projects prior to getting the grant funding is troubling. And I really strongly feel that changing our policy to ensure that these projects, be it shelf ready, be ready to go, aren't started. Because the assumption that this money is just going to come to them is wrong.
Yes.
And we need to ensure the taxpayers that this doesn't happen moving forward.
Okay. Well, that would be a good reason to adjust the bylaws, right, for next time. Thank you very much. So I think we finished with all of those, and we will now go on to bylaws. And that would be the official community plan amendment, multifamily development proposal. Miss McKay.
Read the podium.
I'd like to speak there. Yes, hello, thank you, Mayor Porter. So today we're here to seek final adoption for OCP amendment bylaw number 1230.29, and
zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.139. And also have council authorize issuance of development permit 22-03. And of course, these are all associated with the property located at 6828 89th Street. So council first considered this proposal in November of 2021. And you'll recall that the applicant then made some amendments to the plan to address council's concern relative to the number of residential units as a ratio of the parking provided on site. So then we held a public information meeting on February 22nd, 2022, and then the bylaws were read a second time, and a public hearing was held on March 8th, 2022, following which council granted third reading to the above noted bylaws. So of course, we're now seeking council's support to adopt the bylaws. So of course, just briefly, the applicant is proposing that the eastern portion of the property fronting 6828 89th Street will be developed with a 40-unit apartment building, and then the remainder of the property facing Nighthawk Drive will then be developed with 5 townhomes in compliance with the current zoning of R7. Both the townhome site and the apartment site require the issuance of development permits. The proposed development both developments are aligned with the multifamily development area guidelines as set out in the official community plan. Now, the development permit for the townhouse site will be issued by the Director of Planning following the subdivision of the parent parcel. Development permit number 2022-03 will be issued following authorization by council and completion of the landscaping drawings. Just a note about the landscaping drawings that are currently being completed. Of course, they're inclusive of drought tolerant species and xeriscaping. It should come as no surprise given our recent conversation about water. Also to be secured at the subdivision stage or the covenants, the 2 covenants. One covenant will be for the 10-year rentals, and the second covenant will be that 10% of the units are rented at below market value. And again, those 2 things will be secured at subdivision stage. The options before council today are option 1, that OCP amendment bylaw 123029 be adopted, and B, zoning amendment bylaw 1085.139 be adopted, and of course that council authorized issuance of development permit 22-33. So option 1 is being recommended, and I asked that Mr. Underwood stay briefly, and just so that we could just talk about servicing for all of these new developments that are coming online. Mr. Underwood and I do work closely to determine whether there's adequate water and sewer available when these proposals come forward. So I wasn't sure if you wanted to speak at all about capacity being distributed around the community, so it's not just carte blanche, no capacity in certain areas, I think is a better way to phrase it.
We're gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Is this like a global supply capacity question?
No,
So normally in the development review referrals, we look at water capacity, be able to supply of water, obviously at a reasonable pressure and flow rate, as well as fire protection to these developments. And
site specific.
yeah, give planning department a list of upgrades that may be required off-site in order to do them. But yeah, in this case, what we do not or are not in the position that we're doing right now is saying we have the ability to connect this many more units, and before we're out of water. That's our town's too big, our flow rates are too high to be able to ever say that. But every time we add a building like this, we're adding more water demand, and we're pushing ourselves closer and closer to needing well set online.
And so my point, Mayor McCarthy, of asking Mr. Underwood to comment on that is that we do review each application and the capacity to support that application at that site specifically. I just think it's important that we had that conversation while Mr. Underwood was here. Thank you.
Does that
And
also, something come forward about the sewer capacity also?
yes.
Okay.
So the implications particular to this request are the community, of course, benefits from the addition of additional rental units to our housing stock. In addition, of course, to the new townhomes to be available for sale. Organizationally, again, offsite servicing costs and any additional engineering requirements will be secured through the subdivision process, which includes, of course, any additional geotechnical studies. Development cost charges are payable at building permit stage, in addition to landscaping deposits and any other fees that may be imposed by the building inspector or the town's engineer. The proposed OCP amendment and zoning amendment bylaws have no implication for the town's budget. And of course, following issuance of the multifamily development permits, the applicant will have 2 years to commence work on the site. And the property is of course located within municipally serviced area. And town services at this site have been determined to be adequate for the proposed development. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we need 3 different motions on this one. Number 1, that the official community plan amendment bylaw number 123029/2021 be adopted. Is there any, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor? Thank you. Next, that the a motion that the zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.139/2021 be adopted. Councillor King, Councillor Harvey, all in favor? Thank you. And the third, that the council authorize the issuance of development permit 22-03. Pardon? 03.
It says 3-3.
Mine says 22-03. Oh, is that the correct one?
I don't know, mine says 3-3.
It's 03.
It's a,
It says 03 on mine, so I
yeah,
apologize.
and then on one part it does say 3-3, so it's just,
It
okay,
is,
so
because
it
we
is
haven't done
03.
33 this year.
Okay,
Thank
so
God.
it's 03.
It's number 3, I
Third one,
appreciate that.
maybe.
Thank you.
Okay, have moved and seconded, have we got that?
No.
No, all right, are you moving that, Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. McKay and Mr. Underwood for sticking around. And we will now move on to the CAO report, Mr. Zackel.
Thank you, Mayor McCord. So for the reporting up to the March 22nd, CAO reviewing staff reports and agenda reviews, corporate services. Director been busy working on interviews, posting and other various human resources issues for the town. Begun pre-planning for the upcoming 2022 municipal election. Worked with MLA Rolly Russell's office to coordinate a meeting with members of council, MLA Minister Katrine Conroy and Brittany Anderson, who is the advisor on the youth of to the premier. Director and deputy attended election webinar that was hosted by LGMA. Deputy is working hard on the land title project, working on FOIPA inquiry. Corporate service admin support was busy placing job postings on the website, creating e-news, working on post council action items. While enforcement officers were busy out in town monitoring traffic, preparing notices to the boat trailer parking lot, to go out to local hotels, delivering public hearing notices, dealing with complaints on Airbnbs. For operational services, water, wastewater, hauling chlorine gas to agriculture irrigation stations and lagoons for the start of irrigation season. Aerators for treatment number 2 inspected and serviced for the year. Wet well pump chamber and intake pipe inspected via ROV at agricultural irrigation station 8. Wastewater release from collection system in foreshore along Kingfisher. Mainline blockage removed, contaminated soil removed, and Ministry of Environment contacted, spill reported being submitted. Ongoing BC1 requests under public works, including parks, spring road sweeping, inspected clock on Pioneer Walkway for electrical issues, may need to send clock away for repairs, completed spring maintenance on parks and green spaces, met with line painters to discuss 2022 line painting program. Under capital, Oswego Lake water main crossing, tie-ins complete, waiting on weather to improve the complete project. East side servicing capacity review, discussion with OIB continuing. Legion Beach negotiating a successful proponent. Main Street concept designs, initial concept reviewed and comment returned to WSP. New scale and office trailer construction is now underway. SCAD upgrade continuing, site improvements being reviewed. Self-domestic servicing service and mainline tie-ins starting again in March 23rd. Active transportation plan, council engagement in May. Starting to work on 2022 capital program, initial discussions with electrical engineer about generator placements. Preliminary survey started for 2022 road design program. Design work continuing for OHS upgrades for agricultural irrigation system 8 and 9. Design work continuing for hydro injection system at the wastewater treatment lagoon. For fleet, unit 32 still out of service, still waiting on electrical parts. Field mower maintenance, getting ready for mowing season. Landfill solid waste, non-compliance reports received from Ministry of Environment, working to correct. Under community services, happy to announce that it's still offering early morning access to the weight room for those members with 1 month, 3 months, 6 month or annual membership from 6:38 to 8:30 a.m. Monday through Friday. Members must request access to the front counter and complete a letter of understanding in order to receive access. South Okanagan Aquatic Center feasibility study is coming to a conclusion. Final report will be presented to all participants in the near future. Spring registration starts March 19th. New programs include learn to mountain bike, belly fit, and gardening programs for preschoolers and children. Starting on Monday, March 21st until Saturday, March 26th, the South Okanagan Minor Hockey Association is hosting the U15 Tier 3 Provincial Championships at the Sun Bowl Arena. We have opened up registration on our next adult mixed slow pitch team. Teams will have until March 30th to register. 3 teams have already registered. Vaccination clinic is continuing at the Sonora Community Center. Interior Health is doing vaccinations 1 day per week. The request for a proposal was released for the park's washroom renovations, and unfortunately, we did not receive any bids. We're still trying to secure a contractor to complete work. Desert Sunrise Marina will be opening on April 1st. Pleased to welcome back Teresa Kraft as part of our frontline counter attendant. Under planning development services, planning project staff are assembling background information for the inclusion in the RFP for the zoning bylaw updates and short-term rental program project. Development inquiries are continuing to rise in the number with the spring in the air. New applications for minor rezoning projects are being submitted. Staff are working on 2 multifamily development permits for the pre-zoned properties on Nighthawk and on Highway 87. Staff training, planning technician and the director took part in the riparian area protection regulation session for local government staff. Business licenses, 1 new business license application for OK Pools. Business license change of names from Robert Parler to Button Up Home Service. That's a general home maintenance and renovation. Your building permits, 4 new building permit applications, 4001 Pebble Beach Drive for a deck, 4410 Oleander for a garage with living above, 2 Brayburn for a swimming pool, and 6814 97th for interior alterations. So year to date, building permit issued is $2,020,000. Paperwork sitting in docs waiting to be processed, 7.99 million. Under fire department, we've got no report. For finance, we're in the year-end audit at this present time, preparing financial plan amendment for changes to the 2022-26 budget and preparing for the parcel tax roll review. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. Could we please have a motion to receive the CAO report? Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. We'll go on to council reports. Councillor Rhodes. Thank you. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last week attended a Zoom meeting along with Councillor Bennett and Madam Sue. It was well attended with representatives from Oliver, the RDOS, Area A, Area C, and ourselves from the Soyuz. Along with the consultants are just getting around to just finalizing the report. If you are interested in the most updated report, you can get it on the town's website. Also attended an accessibility and age-friendly committee last week. Again, this committee is very energized and I believe they're doing a great job. Reviewed the things we'll be doing this year and staying within budget, obviously. But I'd like to ask the public if there's anybody out there that feels there's a need for better accessibility, whether it's washrooms, street corners, or any other facility the town owns, please contact Director Davis and he'll be happy to bring it forward to the committee. I'm sure. Also, on behalf of the mayor, last week I attended an interior health meeting with mayors around interior health area. And as they're kind of winding down with COVID, the new focus is now along with toxic drugs And just to throw out a couple of numbers, which I found kind of astonishing, that the deaths in 201 was 2,232, and that's just in the interior health region. This year in 222, already the deaths are 207 in just interior health region. The other thing, again, not to worry so much maybe in the soils, but it is out there. This year, out of those 207 deaths, 71 of them were actually in counties. And a big percentage of the ones last year were actually infected. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. And thank you for attending that, Councillor Jim. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor Recorder. March 9th, School District 53. I attended the meeting, and basically they're implementing an Indigenous focused graduation requirement for all students. So now all students will have to be part of that focused graduation. They're also seeing the return of spring drama now, the lifting of the COVID, so they'll be doing Oliver and OSS and into what's it, OSS. And other than that, March 16th, we have Billy Russell and LA Ministers, which I'm sure the mayor will talk some more on. And also the Product Center on March 16th, along with Councillor King, who just spoke on. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. I don't have a report this meeting.
Thank you. So it's been kind of a busy couple of weeks when I started to go through the calendar. I met with our new Minister of Municipal Affairs, Nathan Cullen, and that was interesting because it's the interior region, and we've done this quite often, have these Zoom meetings with Minister Osborne, and now Minister Cullen has taken over. That it was interesting that Minister Osborne is now dealing with water and fisheries and so on, and Minister Cullen said she was the Minister of Earth, Wind and Fire, and I thought that was perfect. It should be really earth, wind and water, but anyway, she'll be good at that too. So the two items that were talked about at that meeting were connectivity, wireless, mainly along the highways, which is we had brought up several times, and also wireless and connectivity. And we were asked to all comment. We each have a turn. Each of the mayors or chairs would have a turn to comment on things. I mentioned Highway 3 Coalition that deals with a lot of those things, and I mentioned that to them. I mentioned that on Friday this week, we're having a community to community meeting with Oliver Asuyas and the OIB, where we discuss issues of things that involve all of us. And housing was another big one that we, of course, we continue to talk about everywhere in the province. As a matter of fact, there was something on the national news, and I think out of the United States to 60 Minutes or one of those, Fifth Estate, and everybody is talking about the problems with trying to get enough housing and get housing that is affordable, attainable, whatever we want to call it. On March the 15th, I had a meeting with MP Cannings. It was quite interesting. He was here quickly because he was in town to do that. He had to go on a Zoom meeting, and then he came in to my office and we chatted for about an hour. I particularly was interested in his views on what had happened in Ottawa, because he was there for 3 weeks. His condo is downtown, and he said it was a pretty eerie feeling to be to have to go back and forth to his office and to his condo. It was pretty noisy all day long. So when he eventually, after 3 weeks, came home, he said he literally just sort of collapsed and he was just needed to not think about it for a while. So we know what it's like because we've had it in a miniature form here. Anyway, that was interesting to get caught up with MP Cannings. And the next day, Councillor Bennett and I met with Minister Conroy and with MLA Russell. And actually, both of them as of April 1st, Bennett was the other, one of the other, Brittany Anderson, who is an MLA in the Kootenays. And it was interesting because their jobs change as of April 1st. So Minister Conroy, of course, is losing the water part of hers, but she still has fire. And she was talking about Fire Smart in communities and funding for the river forecast. That was both of those were brought up in the budget, and the fact that there was 830 million to hopefully connect everybody in the province by 2027. So that probably is a huge issue, but fortunately down here at this end of the Okanagan, we're pretty good. We don't have the same concerns as people up north who are in very rural settings. So the next day I was at the RDOS meeting, and we actually did talk quite a bit about the Fire Smart communities. That was a big thing. We had a report on that, and we also had a report on emergency management plan. So those are two big things that the RDOS is doing right now. And then I was telling you earlier about the Okanagan, the Osoyoos Lake Water Quality Society, and the lady who spoke, and she was there to honor John Gates, who is pretty amazing at the things that he does for the water quality. He trains people, he keeps track of all the records and on his computer, and he also fixes things. So he's a real godsend. And if anybody ever has a chance to hear Marge Sidney, she is absolutely passionate about water issues and lakes and everything else, and it was quite interesting. On Friday, I was at the Adam Fiesta because, well, Mr. Davis was there as well. And it was the opening ceremonies. It's the 48th year of the Adam Fiesta. Was started 1972 or something like that by Paul Eisenhut, who was trying to sort of get something going here at the arena. And you wouldn't believe the pomp and circumstance around this. They had the Legion and a drummer or a bagpiper, and we all sort of marched out on the ice and lined up, and Mayor Johansson was there as well, and so we sort of spoke on behalf of our communities. And I think it was Quinnell that was the team. They have been there every single year since its inception. Isn't that amazing? And they were there again. So there were 12 teams, including the South Okanagan team, and they, I believe, won the event. So that's terrific. And we say congratulations to all of the hockey players in this neck of the woods, because the Coyotes did a great job. They're now finished for this year, but there were 3 of the minor hockey association teams that are in provincials, and that's amazing. And thanks to Mrs. Hilson, who seems to coordinate it all. So it's been a busy couple of weeks. And one more thing, I'm going to attend on Friday. I'm going to trivia night, and I think other people may be going as well. It's at the Sonora Center, and you have to have themes, and you have to dress up a little bit. So we are, and it'll be kind of fun. I'm not telling you what I'm going at.
Oh, you'll be the only one dressed up.
Oh, no, it says we're supposed to have themes and a name. Anyway, I think it's a great idea. It's Rotary, and the museum is putting it on, and it's a fundraiser for the museum. So it's fun to be busy, but sometimes you need a break too.
Yeah, just-
And yes, go
I just
ahead.
add to that for the fundraiser, if you're nervous about going and don't think you know the answers, it is a multiple choice, so it's more of a fun night with a little bit of green power thrown in, but there's also wine and beer and a bit of nibblies for food, so it's a really good time to have a night out.
And there's also prizes for the
Yeah.
first, second, and third team,
You
so
win
that's even
600
better.
first prize.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all that I had in my report, and I will now move in camera. So I need a motion, please, that pursuant to section 91K of the community charter, the council meeting be closed to the public as the subject matter relates to negotiations and related discussions respecting a proposed provision of a municipal service that are at the preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. I have okay, thank you, Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you very much, everyone. So,
See you.
Participating, but